Just kidding. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I was just trying to get you. I was trying to get you to think the audio wasn't working, but really was working. And I was like just kidding about whether it was working or not working. But really, I just wasn't talking. Anywho, welcome back, my friends. Welcome to a live stream. We're going to be live streaming for about the next hour. And then I have a virtual meeting, doing a little workshop at 1:45. So then there's going to be more talking. I did AMX this morning. So generally, I don't like to talk this much in a single day on air because it's pretty exhausting. But because of vacation last week, because of a trip yesterday that was really awesome, I got myself a little bit behind, so I got to make up for it. So that is exactly what I'm doing right now. Anthony DiGio Safate. It's a heck of a name you got there, Anthony. That is a heck of a last name you got there, Anthony. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to record what will be last week's What I Learned episode coming out this week on Tuesday. And this is the latest that I have released a What I Learned This Week episode. Normally, I like to release them ideally on Saturday mornings, sometimes Sunday, once in a while Monday. Never, ever have I released this episode on a Tuesday for the previous week, but you know what? Such is the case. It happens. My main sticklers, what I stick to is AMX 5 days a week, interview on Thursday. That's what I really stick to. What I learned, there's a little bit of variation. I will put this out there too. After this, as I said, I'm going to be recording for about the next hour. After this, I will be recording AMX Kids 2. AMX Kids. So if you follow AM Excellence, I saw a couple new names pop in here. AM Excellence is part of my podcast. And I record it, I live stream every morning, Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. And then I do interviews, but then also I started a new series to carry on this love of reading and kind of teach life through books to young people, middle-aged school kids. So I recorded and released last Tuesday, and I will be recording and releasing today AMX Kids 2, and the first book that we're studying is Hatchet. So that's really awesome and got a very big, very positive, favorable response last week. So if you have middle school age kids, give or take a couple years either way, or if you have friends who do, or if you're if you're a coach, or if your kid is on a team, please expose them to this stuff. Everything can be found on my podcast feed on iTunes or whatever podcast app you use. Get familiar with it, with podcasts if you're not already, because they're a lifesaver. But just search Spaniard and it'll pop up. So what I'm going to dive into right now is what I learned from last week. And this What I Learned episode, What I Learned is the title of the episode. It is what I learned that week. So again, this is some of the things that I learned last week through interviews, conversations, etc. And we are going to rock and roll. 1, 2, 3. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode, another week of What I Learned This Week. Now, this is the latest, and there's reason for it. Just stating facts, not making excuses, simply stating facts. There's reason that I'm releasing a What I Learned This Week episode on a Tuesday of the following week when this content deals with what I learned last week. So I was on vacation. If you follow AM Excellence, you saw me in Stone Harbor, New Jersey last week. Came back from that trip, and then yesterday, which was Monday, July 2nd, I went to see Live with Kelly and Ryan in New York City. My wife had gotten us tickets for Father's Day. She got that as a gift, so we drove in Sunday night, stayed over, went there Monday, and got back later yesterday. So last night and today was full of expedited learning. So I either had to do the readings and then make the lesson plans, or I had to make the lesson plans from what I had already read. So it's been a brain stretching last day and a half getting all this stuff organized, but I am about to record this episode for you. I am recording this episode for you. And then after I hang up, hit end on the Facebook Live video, extract this audio to my podcast feed, I will then be recording AMX Kids episode number 2. So AMX Kids is the youth version of my daily series, AM Excellence. AMX Kids is essentially where I'm teaching life through books. I'm teaching character development. I'm teaching doing the right thing through books, through classic middle school age books. So if you have a kid out there who's middle school age, give or take a few years either way, I highly encourage you to check out this AMX Kids series. It is on my podcast feed. New episodes will be released every Tuesday. And you can subscribe to the podcast, if not already, by searching Spaniard in any podcast app. You'll see my mug, a happy mug, and an upset mug. So I went to Stone Harbor, a screaming fight mug. That's what I mean. So I went to Stone Harbor last week, and I want to put this out there. So this show is about learning. Being the world's toughest lifelong learner is about being tough, is about training your mind and training your body. So one of the things that I picked up, if you followed along with AM Excellence last week, the live stream, 6:30 a.m., facebook.com/Charlie Spaniard, you'll notice that the lighting was increíble. It was absolutamente increíble, absolutely incredible. And that was natural light. And I'm a simple guy. I'm a simplicity guy. My setup here, I have my Mac, I have GarageBand, I have my $70 but very good ATR 2100 mic. I extract audio, boom, upload, minimal editing, etc. I like simple. That's the way I do business. And I will say this, I believe that quality is by far the most important. Keep in mind here, I haven't, quote, made it yet. So we'll see if my gut intuitions have turned out to be true. But I do believe that quality content is the most important. However, I am learning that lighting is freaking valuable, because as I recorded those live streams, when I hit on record, I was blown. I saw this bright blue sky behind me. I recorded at 6:30 a.m. So the sun is coming up in Stone Harbor, New Jersey. Beautiful blue sky, maybe a cloud here. The lighting was incredible. So that is something that I'm chalking in my brain, and I'm going to remember to, if you do follow the live streams, I'm figuring out how I can get those live streams better. Whoop. So let's dive into last week's What I Learned This Week. And if you'd like this document, the document that I am speaking from, the notes that I've taken on what I learned, you can go to charliespaniard.com and you can opt into my email list. I'll send this document out. Consider it your blueprint for excellence, your blueprint for leadership, your blueprint for getting after it, your blueprint for lifelong learning. That's what this document is, and that's, you can use it in a variety of ways, however you see fit. So diving into the first bullet point, there are 7 bullet points on the things that I learned last week. And the book that I read, the book that I finished off last week, was called The Wisdom of the Native Americans by Kent Nerburn. And I am absolutely 100% glad I picked this book up. I saw it in Barnes & Noble. I'd seen it a couple times. It was on one of those clearance buys. I think I bought it for $8 or $9. It was incredible, and this falls in line with the theme on the show of appreciating nature, appreciating outdoors, appreciating my relationship with Spartan Race and ultra running. I've had several ultra runners, several Spartan athletes on the show. A lot of I read a lot and study a lot about overall health and wellness. So this book talked a lot about connection. This book, The Wisdom of the Native Americans, falls right in line with that. It falls in line with it being summertime, being beautiful weather, spending more and more time outdoors, getting in lakes, getting in streams, and last week, having been at the ocean. This book, The Wisdom of the Native Americans, talks about the great mystery. And the great mystery to the Native Americans is this idea that there's a life force and energy that travels through and in all things, right? That we're all connected, that the birds and the stones and people, there's this life force that is in and through all of us. When you're at the ocean, you can't help but see and be in awe and wonder at that life force. So it was a perfect location to be at while reading this book. One of the points from the book says this, quote, "Those who can preserve their selfhood ever calm and unshaken by the storms of existence possess the ideal attitude and conduct of life." So how do we preserve our selfhood and stay ever calm? So it's saying those who can preserve their selfhood ever calm and unshaken by the storms of existence. What are the storms of existence? The storms of existence is the stuff, the crap, the challenges, the adversities, the struggles, the blips in the radar that you and I deal with on a daily basis. Those are the storms of existence. Those who can preserve their selfhood ever calm and unshaken by those storms possess the ideal attitude and conduct in life. I don't want to say the only reason, a ginormous reason that I produce this show is because I'm trying to do that for myself. I'm trying to possess the ideal attitude and conduct of life. I'm trying to learn and consume as much as I can so that I can stay ever calm and unshaken by the storms of existence. By way of that, I'm putting it out there for us all to consume. So how do we do that? For me to just say, hey, preserve your calm and be unshaken by the storms of existence, you can't just do it. You can't just snap your fingers and do it. So how do you do it? Awareness and practice are a good start. I'm going to throw that out there. So don't worry about, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, about steps 5 through 1,000 or 3 through 1,000. Let's worry about steps 1 and 2. And awareness to say, hey, you know what? I like this idea of this preserving my selfhood ever calm and unshaken by the storms of existence. I like that. I'm aware of that. That is not my pursuit. That is not my ideal. Start there, right? Start with that awareness. And then the second part of it is practice. You have that awareness. So the next time a storm of existence smacks you in the face, instead of getting all bent out of shape and instead of getting all riled up and emotional, think, oh, wait, I have this awareness. This is a storm of existence. How do I preserve my selfhood ever calm? Well, you breathe. You process the information. Let's think back to our military study with Jocko Willink and the Echelon Front Team. We're going to observe. We're going to make a call. We're going to take action. Those are step 1 and 2 in the quest, in the ideal of preserving your selfhood and staying ever calm. The next point about the Native Americans that I want to talk about is the idea they have on educating their children. I thought this was awesome, and this falls in line with a lot about what I teach and what I preach about this idea of standards. Understanding that the standard you set for yourself is the standard you set for others. And every single thing you do, whether it's your kids, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your neighbors, if you cut your grass, maybe the neighbors will cut the grass. If you don't cut your grass, maybe the neighbors won't cut the grass. If you upkeep your house, maybe you'll inspire them to upkeep your house. Or if you do the opposite, maybe you'll inspire them to do the opposite as well. So understanding that the example you set for yourself, the standard you set for yourself, you will set for other people. So the Native Americans on educating their children say this, quote, "We taught our children by both example and instruction, but with an emphasis on example." We taught our children with both example and instruction, but with emphasis on example. So what example are you setting? Do you focus more on instruction or do you focus more on example? Because I'll tell you what, it's a lot easier to put your emphasis, to put your focus on instruction, because it's really easy to instruct and then not follow through. How many times have you heard someone instruct and then you see them in their lives not following through, not providing that example? I was watching a documentary yesterday on Netflix, and it was called Made to be Broken. And it was about a guy named Carl Metzler, and he's an ultra runner, and he ran the Appalachian Trail from start to finish in record time. From all the way up in Maine to all the way down in Georgia, he ran it in record time, or at least the movie was his quest to do it. Did he? I don't know. You got to watch it. But it is a great documentary on Netflix. I highly encourage you to watch it. It's called How to Be Broken. And he was talking about, there were two former record holders. I thought this was really neat. There were 2 former record holders of that record, going from top to bottom in record time, that were there helping him, that were trying to help him break their record. It was really interesting, and it spoke to the character that is involved in ultra running, and they talked a little bit about it in the documentary. But there were 2, like I said, there were two former record holders that were trying to help him break their record. That's pretty cool. But Carl was saying it helps so much having these guys here, knowing that they've done what I'm going through right now. So it wasn't just their words saying, yay, go, you can do it, Carl, do it, do it, do it. It was their words backed up by their example, backed up by the fact that they've been there, done that. That's where the power is, folks. So if you want to create influence, if you want to lead other people, your kids, your spouse, your neighbors, your community, the people at your work, other students in your class, your team, understand that it's your example that speaks way louder than your instruction. Moving on to the next bullet point, and this comes from AMX Kids 1. So I've tried a lot of stuff in the last few years of doing business, of DBA as the Spaniard, doing business as a Spaniard. I've tried a lot of things. Many of them have fallen flat on their face. Some continue to fall flat on their face, but we're still trying. Dred and I are still trying. We're still having fun doing it. AMX Kids is one of my prouder, if not my proudest, ideas. And AM Excellence, my show, AM Excellence, AMX, that I put out every day, Monday through Friday, that is about reading books and learning from books. It is about passing on this love lifelong learning, the belief that I have in the power of lifelong learning. It's making learning fun. It's making learning valuable. It's using books to literally change the way I live my life for the better. I could point out 4 or 5 different ways. Bop, 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 bop. Getting up early, eating the right things, the way I communicate with my wife, reading the book, The 5 Love Languages, reading the book, Extreme Ownership, taking more accountability in your life. Those are all things I picked up for books, just like bam, bam, bam. So AMX Kids is like, I thought to myself, well, why don't we produce a show like AM Excellence, but for kids, right? Where I can read kids' books, which is awesome in the first place because I love reading and it's really fun reading kids' books. And then I can teach the life lessons therein. So AMX Kids 1 was released last Tuesday. The second episode is going to be released today, which is also Tuesday. And the first book I picked is Hatchet. And in that book, it's about, well, you know what? You can listen to AMX Kids 1 that's on this podcast feed, and you can listen and see what the book Hatchet is about. But in the book, there's a quote that says this: "You are your most valuable asset. Don't forget that. You are the best thing you have." I'm reading a book now that I'm talking about on AM Excellence called Rhinoceros Success. And in that book, I'm going to talk about it tomorrow, but it says like you're the president of You Incorporated. You're the boss of You Incorporated. You are your most valuable asset. Don't forget that. You are the best thing you have. It's so easy, and trust me, I'm as guilty as everyone listening right now of woe is me or poor me or oh, it's not fair. Kids, your team, whomever it is, please patch on this richness and this love of learning to kids. My vision for AMX Kids is that when there's a kid out there teetering on the line between doing the right thing and the wrong thing, that they hear this voice or maybe a sentence that I said or a reference to one of the books that I read in AMX Kids that keeps them on the right path. That keeps them on the doing the right thing path. That's what the point of AMX Kids is. So if you believe in that, please pass it on. Moving on to the next point, taken from the book, The Wisdom of the Native Americans, on bravery. So I love the idea of the hero's journey. I love the idea of bravery and respect and honor and loyalty and a handshake and fighting. I just love fighting. You know, it's something that I grew up wrestling and then transitioned that into fighting. I just absolutely love it. So in the book, they talk about bravery and courage. And on bravery, the Native Americans say this, quote, and this is a different take on it. This is something new and something valuable. You know, these points that I talk about, I repeat the same themes a lot of times because they're fundamental themes. But I also like to bring new kind of twists to old themes. And on bravery, the Native Americans say this: for us, quote, for us, it's not so much an aggressive self-assertion as an absolute self-control. The brave man, quote, is at all times master of himself. So if you're sitting there and you hear me bring up the word bravery and you're thinking, nah, that's not for me. I'm not a fighter. I just kind of get by. I'm not on a hero's journey. I just kind of like doing what I do. Okay, well, how about this? There's another twist on bravery. The Native Americans are saying it's not so much an aggressive self-assertion. You don't have to go out and physically dominate. You don't have to put the stake in the ground and establish your dominance and your self-assertion. Rather, it's an absolute self-control. They feel that the brave man, quote, is at all times master of himself. Are you the master of yourself? So much of what I read about, what I think about, what I reflect on daily is about mastering myself. And it's about truth, being at peace with who you are, understanding who you are, understanding why you do the things you do, understanding the relationships you have, your relationships with your spouse and your kids and your friends and your family, and why you work hard, why you're disciplined, why you eat the things that you eat, being able to not be dependent on any one thing, rather being dependent on yourself. That's mastery in yourself. And that, according to the Native Americans, and what I like, is bravery. So this book, The Wisdom of the Native Americans, it's a culmination of former talks given by Native Americans, transcriptions, archives, etc., and it's been put into a book. And there's several different Indian chiefs that comprise this book. Some of it's general Native American wisdom, and then are sections based on different chiefs. It's really, really interesting, and it led me, reading this book by chance, seeing it at Barnes & Noble, picking it up, led me to read it, led me to become very interested in Native American culture, which then led me to a conversation with my neighbor and my friend at Stone Harbor, and he said, have you ever read the book, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee? Because that's the book you should read that deals with the American West and Native American history. So I bought the book, and I